built anything wonderful, but he was the first to discover that every drop of water evaporating from the surface of our Earth would always return to it as dew, rain, or snow. And this is wonderful, for water is life. To grow just one tomato, 4 liters of water are needed. 20 drops of water make only 1 cubic centimeter. Maybe that's why one drop, no matter how beautiful, could not really be called water. It's just one drop. The whole of human history is first and foremost the history of a struggle for food. Droughts, floods, plagues are cruel teachers, but they were the ones that taught the farmer to irrigate his land. The standard of living was always, and still is, determined by the level of irrigation. But the level of irrigation today is measured not so much by the height of dams or the amount of water poured into the fields as by the development of agriculture, the economic effectiveness and ecological health. Apparently, that's why these little warblers triumphed so rapidly over all the other methods of irrigation evolved in the course of millennia. The crop yield increased, the outlay of water diminished, the dependency on the whims of weather disappeared. That would seem to put an end to the worry, but no. For nearly 2 centuries now, a prediction was made by an English scientist, Thomas Robert Malthus. In his Essay on the Principle of Population, he wrote that the increase of population of the world takes place in geometrical progression, while the means of subsistence increase at only an arithmetical progression. And indeed, in the year 2000, there will be 6.5 billion people on Earth, an increase of 1/3 as compared to our days. And famine is still a frequent visitor on our Earth. Simcha Blas, an irrigation engineer for more than 40 years, has been working with the irrigation problems in Israel. Compared to the 5,000-year-long history of irrigation as such, this is hardly an impressive length of time.
Once I saw a long fence trees. Among them was one exceptional big and tall, and the reason of that, I observed that a connection of the pipeline was dripping, leaking, with drops who fell near the tree. The drops penetrated the light soil, and the soil around the tree was dry.
This simple incident led Simcha Blas to a remarkable discovery. What is the essence of drip irrigation? While with all the other methods, the whole soil gets an unnecessary soaking, and with the sprinkler, the foliage as well, here, all the water goes to the roots of the plant only. Each drop helps to form a so-called bulb within which the roots can quench their thirst evenly. To build a dripper wasn't an easy task. The requirements were strict. The water should pass through easily, but it shouldn't flow. an amount of friction had to be created, which would diminish the pressure, but not below the level needed in order to push drop after drop regularly through the outlets of the drippers along the whole irrigation line. After a long search, a labyrinth system of pressure control inside the pipe was created. The dripper was ready. Now it can be measured out drop after drop, day after day, year after year, reliable and unfailing. In Israel, at the kibbutz factory Netafim, various types of drippers have been designed and are now being produced with the help of the most advanced technology. Their widespread use in agriculture has proved beyond any doubt the superiority of drip irrigation over all the other methods, including sprinklers. With sprinklers, a lot of water is wasted on the foliage. The quality of irrigation depends on the wind. Some of the water just evaporates without benefiting anybody. The installation and exploitation of the drippers are much cheaper, while the saving of water is 40%. This is especially important in Israel. It is a known fact that we have little water. And according to the law of rotation of water in nature, there won't be any more than there is now. Our soil, too, is not of the best quality. Under these conditions, drip irrigation has no equal. Ensuring an extraordinary development of the root system, drip irrigation stimulates an energetic vegetative growth of the whole plant and the early ripening of crops. This banana grove is just a baby, only 1 month old. And these young apple trees are 2 years old, but they look as if they were a year older. On the other hand, old trees grow younger after drip irrigation replaces the old system, and they continue bearing fruit much longer. Especially amazing is the story of this garden. The crowns had lived out their time, and the trees were going to die. But the miraculous drop is now pumping new strength into their roots, and young fruitful shoots will soon grow out of the old trunks, a second birth of a garden. But even that is not all. Drip irrigation improves the soil structure, eliminates erosion, prevents the forming of the crust. The space between the rows is always dry. It arrests the growth of weeds. And most important of all, it makes it easier to do all kinds of agricultural work throughout the whole cycle, from sowing to harvesting. And another outstanding feature, one can use any kind of water for irrigating, pure, dirty, even the sewage. It doesn't matter. The water that goes into the dripper will be the purest. A special water purifying system, Netafim, takes care of it. The system consists of a hydrocyclone collector for sand, a gravel filter collecting refuse and reeds, a water filter completing the cleansing process, and a head control with liquid fertilizers. From here, enriched by nutritious substances, the drop will go into the soil. A special automatic regulator maintains a stable pressure and controls the amount of water for each plant. Now the system is complete and ready to function. irrigate the plants and not the ground, to measure out the precise amount of water and not just pour it on, to bring fertilizers straight to the root system according to need. All this is based on a totally new conception of irrigation. Our country seems to be tailor-made to become a starting ground for drip irrigation. From a geographic point of view, it is situated vertically, quite a bit of north and south, and almost no east and west. It creates various climatic zones and zones of vegetation with conditions similar to those of many different areas of the world. Let's start from the south, Judean hills, and the Dead Sea. Between the sea and the rocks, a narrow strip of land. This is a desert. Lands like this constitute 1/3 of all the lands on our planet. The weather here isn't benevolent either. Almost no rainfall. Water for irrigation is virtually unavailable. And yet, cucumbers like any others, you may say, but they're really not. These cucumbers are grown in conditions that no other cucumbers in the whole world have ever grown under. But to begin from the beginning. First, the drip irrigation line was installed and covered with a thick polyethylene sheet. Then, before anything had been planted, the drippers were turned on for a while. Under the burning sun, the humid air under the plastic sheet heated up to 80 degrees and killed all the weeds and harmful germs. Then it was time to make holes in the sheet and plant the seedlings. There is very little water here. It comes from a small spring 3 kilometers further up in the mountains. It produces just 3 cubic meters of water per hour. And what water! Remember the evaporation of a drop of ordinary water? The proportion of salt residue there was normal, 200 to 250 milligrams per liter of water. That was the water we drink. But in this spring, the concentration of salts is 6 to 7 times higher, 1,500 to 1,700 milligrams per liter. This water could never be used for drinking or for ordinary irrigation. Such a lot of salt. But the plant doesn't seem to mind it. How come? With drip irrigation, the salt that is in the soil and in the water, remaining all the time in solution, is constantly being forced out by osmosis. This way, the middle of the bulb becomes salt-free, and the roots drink water that is almost normal. As a result, drip irrigation with salt water yields a much higher crop than sprinkler irrigation with sweet water. So you see, this little cucumber is not so simple as it might seem at first glance. Everything that is being grown in this desert soil thrives on drops of the lowest quality water. Literally, drop by drop. And here are the results. Onions, peppers, eggplants. Instead of yielding 12 tons per acre, yield 24 tons. And tomatoes, instead of 12 to 20, 40 to 60 tons per acre. Even the children of the desert, date palms, double their productivity. All right, you may say, this is all very well in the desert or in a rocky area with poor soil. But who needs drip irrigation here on the coastal plain of the Mediterranean? Everything grows by itself. True, it grows, just as it grows in many countries of Europe or in California. But even here, drip irrigation has its uses. Anybody who ever had to deal with avocado trees knows that a healthy sapling is a guarantee of a future high crop. That is why it has to be nursed like a baby. First, the seedlings are grown in small pots, cozily warm and sheltered. Then they are repotted into bigger containers, each with its individual dripper. And so, step by step, the saplings grow. And when they are transplanted into the open ground, they get their drip nourishment again. With drip irrigation, their fruit ripens 2 or 3 weeks earlier than usual. The taste and the fragrance of the fruit are more delicate and vitamin content higher. It has now been established that a strictly measured water diet is more effective than the abundance of water. Even more convincingly, it has been demonstrated in the plantations of Zichron Yaakov, where wine growing is an old tradition. Up to 20 tons of grapes per acre. It sounds fantastic, but it is a fact. And the bunches are uniformly large, everywhere in the vineyard, due to the fact that the system provides an equal amount of water to each plant, regardless of the length of the irrigation line. And here we come to another climatic zone, where drip irrigation has proved to be particularly useful. Hothouses. As we already know, drip irrigation solves the problem of poor soil. It is enough that the soil just holds the plant. We know also that the quality of water doesn't matter. Any water will do. And lastly, we know that the amount of water needed can be calculated down to a single drop. A strict water diet coupled with fertilizers dissolved in the water doubled the productivity of all the crops here. And this is in the desert, on land that doesn't deserve a good word. A greenhouse town like this, at Moshav Sde Nitzan, could be created practically on any spot on Earth and produce an immense amount of food. The plastic irrigation canals produced by the factory could wind around the Earth many times. And it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that many farms in Israel and abroad have grown big, strong, and rich thanks to the drops of water running through the pipes made by Netafim. Especially since the beginning itself, the laying out of the irrigation network, is reduced, as you can see, to a simple and easy operation. It can even be done by hand. A reel of plastic pipe equipped with drippers weighs only 30 kilos, and it is 400 meters long. Pipes of various diameters and lengths make it possible to use drip irrigation under every condition, in huge cotton plantations just as well as in small hothouses. maybe now the time has come to ask ourselves, was he really so right, Sir Robert Malthus? In Israel today, there are 500,000 acres of cultivated land. Drip irrigation has already been introduced on 1/10 of them, and their productivity has increased 1.5 to 2 times. If we equipped all the 500,000 acres with drippers, it would mean the equivalent of another 250,000 acres being added to them without actual extension of the acreage under crop, and this means that the introduction of drip irrigation alone may increase by half the amount of the food produced in the world. Perhaps now you will agree that even a single drop of water is water.